So everyone, Apple just released iOS and iPadOS 16.4 Beta 1 to all developers, and to test out all the new features that they are introducing into 16.4 that will eventually come in the coming weeks or months to the entire public. There are some new features that are definitely worth noting, and some features that are still kind of missing from what Apple promised us back at WWDC, but without further ado, let's talk about iPadOS and iOS 16.4 Beta 1. Let's get into it. Okay everyone, so let's hop right into this video and talk about everything that Apple gave us with 16.4 Beta 1. We're mostly going to be talking about the iPhone to begin with, but I did want to show you guys what the actual size of the installation was. So we're dealing with about 5.4 gigs for the 16.4 Beta 1 update. Now we all know with the first beta of any iteration, it's going to be the largest size one because, again, they're restructuring everything in there, even if they are just copy and pasting. So 5.4 gigs, give yourself at least 10 gigs of open storage to get this installed and installed correctly, whether it is on the iPhone or the iPad, because then on the iPad, if I zoom in here, you can see that it was about 5 gigs. So 4.96 gigs, like I said, 10 gigs should be plenty of room and enough headway for you to get this installed and get it installed correctly. And then what I like to do is talk about build numbers. So if we go into our settings, go into our general, go into about, then click into the iOS version, you can see that we're on iOS 16.4 20E5212F. Now that just means that it's the first iteration, F is the final moniker right there, so as we get closer to the RC edition, and then finally that public release, then we should see that letter go away completely, and then finally get the RC edition. Probably about 6 to 8 weeks away to get the public release of 16.4, but now let's see exactly what's new with 16.4. So the first tangible feature that I want to bring up is that we do get a new set of emojis with 16.4, and in this you get a couple of new things like the shaking face, you get a goose, a hyacinth, and a plain pink heart. So those are some of the new emojis that you do get that are going to be accessible to everybody once you update to 16.4, and we have about 15 or so on here, including some maracas and a flute and things of that nature. So always a welcome addition for Apple to be including new emojis so we can express ourselves with emojis instead of words, because that is the world that we live in nowadays. So the next change that actually happened in the back end has to do with Safari, and this is more of a big deal than probably meets the eye. So for the longest time, in order for you to receive a push notification that you get from your drop-down menu, so if you go into any of these, that is your push notification menu, right? So in order to get those push notifications, you need to have the app installed from the App Store in order for brands to be able to be allowed to send you those push notifications. But now the new update to WebKit, as long as you have a bookmark saved to your homepage, so you can see that I have 9to5Mac websites right here. So if I go on here, press on the share button, scroll down to add to home screen, once I add it to the home screen, that basically gives that brand, that website, that company permission to send you push notifications via Safari, which is something we've never had before. So keep that in mind. If you start seeing some Safari notifications come in 16.4 and later, it's because Apple made that update and allowed it to open up push notifications to iOS and iPadOS, whereas before only on macOS it could be done. And in that same light, once different browsers start to update to 16.4, so let's say you're a big Chrome user and you use Chrome as your default browser, you'll be able to do the same exact thing by putting a shortcut on your home screen by going into the share sheet, going down, and there will be an add to home screen button. As long as Chrome or Edge or any other browser that you use gets updated to 16.4, then you'll be able to add that to your home screen, which is something that was not possible before, so keep that in mind with the new WebKit update. Another new addition is we actually got some new widgets. So if you long press on your home screen, so if you press the plus sign on the top left hand corner, you can click on this right here, and now we have an order tracking widget. So if you guys aren't aware, if you go into your wallet, this was an update that came in iOS 16. So if I go into my wallet, you see on the top right hand corner, there's a little shipping notification, and now automatically you should be getting order and shipping notifications through the wallet application itself, which is something that is relatively new. But now we get a new updated widget to be added. So if you want to use that as your main form of tracking orders, you now have a small, medium, and a large widget that you can place on your home screen. Now there's also a new update for T-Mobile users specifically. So if you go into your settings, and correct me if I'm wrong if it's more than just T-Mobile users, but I'm a T-Mobile user and this kind of coincides with their new 3 gigabit speed internet for 5G on T-Mobile's network. But if you go into your cellular, and then go all the way to where it says voice and data, there is now a new toggle called 5G standalone, which is also known as 5G SA. So 5G standalone uses 5G for all cellular activity, including cellular network connections. In certain conditions, 5G standalone may be used when necessary to provide cellular service. And this is what T-Mobile is touting as their super speed 5G. So 5G SA can give you up to 3 gigs of download speeds. I haven't been able to test that out, but now with the update to 16.4, it's automatically turned on by default on your iPhone that supports 5G. So I believe it's iPhone 12 and newer. So keep that in mind. By default, it is turned on and it will probably drain more battery. So if you do want to turn it off, make sure to go into your cellular settings and turn that toggle off. But we will be testing it to see where I can get those 3 gig download speeds via 5G. The next update is to Apple Music. So if you go into Apple Music, which I have right here, on the top right hand corner, you now get your actual profile picture, which was not there before. So if you click on there, you're able to then go into your profile and get all the information that you need. Some other smaller tweaks and enhancements that were brought to Apple Music was that the sort button is now looks a little bit different, which is something to keep in mind. And then also, if you do want to queue a song, so let's say I'm browsing, let's say I go here and just start playing this song. If I want to queue a song, you can actually go into your settings, press the play next button, and it's a small little animation as opposed to a large animation which took up the center of the screen. So that's something new that was brought over to Apple Music. Something else new that came with 16.4, and I know there's a lot of stuff that happened, they're all small things, but there's a lot of new features that did come into play, but it's now Mastodon. So Mastodon is a new Twitter alternative that's kind of been gaining ground over the last month or two with people wanting to leave Twitter. Now we get full rich previews inside of iMessage from Mastodon, which you could see right here. And basically what a rich preview does, it's more than just a link. So whenever you post a rich preview, all it is physically a link that you're putting onto iMessage, but then it populates with either some artwork or some continued messaging or something inside of that link that's relevant contextually to the link that you're sending. And now that's possible with Mastodon Links. So if you are a Mastodon user and you want to get more people involved into Mastodon, now sharing a Mastodon link will give the reader on iMessage side a little bit more information than just a regular link. Now this next feature is an interesting one. I kind of want to see how it does in practice, but if you go into your settings, go into accessibility, then go into motion, there's now a new option called dim flashing lights. So this means that video content that depicts repeated flashing or strobing lights will be automatically dimmed. The video timeline will display when the flashing light occurs in the timeline for supported media. So I'm curious to know, first off, how Apple will determine what is a flashing light and what's too bright and what's not bright enough. And then also I just kind of want to see how it is in action, which we will test out in a future video. But that is now a toggle that by default is turned off. But if you are sensitive to flashing lights and you still want to watch content with that stuff, then by all means try that out and then let me know in the comments down below if it did help out with your current situation. Very, very curious to know. And then the last tangible difference that we did notice, which I'll put up on the screen right now, is that there was some additions to shortcuts into focus mode. So for the always on display, there's a new filter for focus mode so you can have certain focus modes enable or disable based on always on display. You also have in shortcuts, there's a new set always on display action, a new lock screen action, and then a new set of VPN action. So those are all things that were added to focus modes and shortcuts. If you do want to play around with them, by all means, go for it. And that is pretty much everything that we got with 16.4 Beta 1. The last thing I do want to test out or see is the battery life and see how we did battery life-wise with 16.3 mostly, and then see what we've done with 16.4. So if we go over the last 10 days, we get out 6 hours and 16 minutes of screen on time with about 3 hours of screen off time, which, you know, is good enough for the most part. And on a day like this one right here, we got about 7 hours of screen on time, about 2.5 hours of screen off time, but we did go over that 100% limit. And one thing that I do want to let you guys know is that I am using a 13 Pro Max, and you can see that my maximum capacity is at 89% now. So it has taken a hit because we are pretty much 18, 19 months into using this phone every single day and using it very intensely. So that's something to take into account if you are looking to get a 13 Pro Max or something that's a little bit older. Just know that we are getting about 6 to 7 hours of screen on time, which honestly for an almost 2-year-old device is more than enough. But that's going to do it for all the stuff that we found out that's new. Now let's finish up this video. So that is going to do it for this video in terms of what's new with 16.4. Like I mentioned, there were some missing features. We still don't have Apple Classical, which is still in the actual code to show that we should have gotten it with 16.4. So maybe in a future beta, there's still no Apple buy now and pay later feature that they promised us, as well as the high yield savings account that would coincide with your Apple Card and that whole system on the finances side. But that could have to do with the issues that they're having with Goldman Sachs right now, but that's neither here nor there. Those are features that we did not get quite yet. But all the other features that we did get are nice, welcome additions to 16.4 to build upon 16.3 and all the other iterations that we had previously. So that is going to do it for this video, everybody. If you did enjoy, leave a little dolphin in the comments down below so I know you made it to the end. And leave some comments down below. Did you update to 16.4? Is it stable enough for you yet? What are some things that maybe you noticed that we didn't bring up? We tried to go through the entire kind of catalog, see what Apple gave us, and then also some Easter eggs that Apple doesn't really tell us about that are in the system and updated with 16.4. But that's going to do it, everybody. If you guys want to watch more iOS, iPadOS, or macOS content, click on one of these videos right here. But until next time, I'm Fernando, and I'm out of here, everybody. Peace.